For our first module in phase 2 of Blueprint, we're going to go through protein. So what is a protein? I think you can start to conjure up some images, right? You can think about meat, chicken, fish, steak, ground beef. You can think about maybe some alternate sources like whey protein or plant-based protein. The thought is, well, we know we need to take protein in, and we want to kind of remove any bit of uncertainty or try to go through a little bit more of a rationale as to what it is and then why we might need it so we can make the best choices off of that. So a protein really is a building block, and we're thinking about proteins are built up over amino acids and they're sequenced out into a series called a peptide. And these amino acids and peptides into proteins are what actually creates structure in our body. So everything in our body is built up of proteins. So if you think about our skin all the way to our muscle tissue, it's just a lot of amino acids sequenced in a specific way to give it a certain structure and then ultimately a certain function. So if we could think about it mechanically like that, we could start to next digest of, okay, well, what is good and what is bad in regards to protein. And not all proteins created equal. And there is such a classification as a complete versus an incomplete protein. Simply put, if it has all 9 essential amino acids, and these are amino acids that the body cannot create, it is a complete protein. If it doesn't have at least one of the essential amino acids, it's an incomplete protein. And some examples of that are animal proteins, so meat, chicken, fish. That would be an example of a complete protein. Versus an incomplete protein might be rice or beans. And this is why you typically see a lot of dietary kind of plans say a good way to supplement getting a complete protein is combining rice and beans, because what it does is it culminates into a complete protein when they're added together. So there's kind of workarounds when we're looking at, okay, if I want to maybe limit my meat intake, or maybe I want to omit that as much as possible, there is a strategy into adding complete proteins without eating animal proteins. Just got to look at it in terms of the net cost and the challenge of getting that in, and there actually might be some limitations off that. So now we're thinking, okay, I have the building block component, right? So if I want to build lean muscle, then I'm going to have protein in my diet. If I want to get a most linear path, I want to think about getting more complete proteins in my diet. And then if I have some sort of alteration, whether it's personal or it's medical, then I might need to work on some other areas like getting combinations of certain other foods to make a complete protein. Which goes into this next thought of what does it actually look like in a biochemical level of trying to build proteins.